You know, I've never been a super fan of The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings. While sure, they're very good movies, I kind of agree with Randall from Clerks.
Those fucking Hobbit movies were boring as hell. All it was a bunch of people walking. 3 movies of people walking to a fucking volcano. And here's the second movie.
Plus, I really don't like hairy feet. Kind of a turnoff. But looking at this giant 1/6 scale statue from Weta, it really makes me wonder the Elvish words for me, that is big.
That's what she said.
As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we're giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey, thanks for tuning into the Extreme channel. My name is Mr. X. If this is your first time here, we are all about extreme collectibles. And based off of this giant 1/6 scale by Weta, that's W-E-T-A, from the Hobbit movie, specifically the second Hobbit movie, I don't know if it gets any more extreme than this, because let's face it, sometimes size does matter. But size is not the only thing that makes this statue amazing. Now, this is actually the second Weta piece I've ever owned, and the first one was also a piece from the Lord of the Rings universe. It was this golem right here, which I thought was incredibly well done. However, I got out of it because I decided I didn't want to collect Lord of the Rings. As I said in the intro, I think the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies were very good. I think they're very entertaining. I think they definitely deserve a lot of the praise they get. However, I am not a super fanboy. If I have to choose between the original Star Wars trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Star Wars wins every single time. However, when it comes to collectibles, I think that Lord of the Rings can certainly win, especially with so many companies doing licensing of The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. For example, Weta has been doing it for a long time, and they make things in scale anywhere from 1/20th, which means 20 times smaller than a real-life version, 1/6, which is this right here, and then of course you have larger pieces as well. I also have on order, that should be arriving very, very soon in the next few weeks, this Prime 1 Studio piece. So Prime 1 Studios made this Balrog vs. Gandalf diorama that I'm equally excited to get. Now, I actually purchased that. I did not purchase this. This is actually from the Todd Father over at Spec Fiction. If you don't know what Spec Fiction is, you are missing out. So he sent me this to review. I get a free video out of it, and probably a hernia from packing this back up and sending it back to him. You guys get a view of this amazing statue. Now, while it's amazing, it's not without its issues, and we're going to cover all of that in the Extreme review today. But again, if you're interested in this, make sure to check out the link in the description below for Spec Fiction. We're going to talk about them a little bit later. And they don't carry just Weta pieces, they carry almost every single manufactured product you can think of. So big shout out to the Todd Father for sending this to me, even though it sucked about 3 hours of my time just to assemble that. And we're going to cover that in the assembly as well. Now, as I said, this is actually a lesser known character from the Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit universe. This is Thranduil. He's kind of the equivalent of Lord Elrond, who is played by Agent Smith, but he rules in the wood, and he's more of an asshole, so to say. Really cares more about the elves. He had a brief appearance in the first Hobbit movie, but in the second Hobbit movie, he played a bigger role, specifically when the dwarves were captured by the elves. That's when Legolas first appeared, and everybody got all excited. So they are trapped in the dungeon, or the trees, or whatever that is, and we briefly see Thranduil in front of his giant tree throne here. He actually doesn't sit in it, but we see him in that realm. So let's talk about the concept of this statue and how it relates to that. So what Weta did here is they didn't take an exact scene, but they took the exact characters in the exact setting from the movie and put it together. Down on the bottom here, it is a museum style base, and I like this in this particular circumstance. Weta pieces seem more museum-y to me, and when I say museum, it's something that you would probably see like in a prop museum. But as you move up, there's a lot of different variances to this. So we're not really sure if this is indoors or outdoors or inside of a giant tree. You can see a giant tree there, but they have a guard right here. So an elven guard, he is movable. You can place him pretty much wherever you want. You don't have to display him either. However, that leaves a little bit of blank space we'll talk about later. Then the stairs leading up to his throne is actually carved out of a tree, and they did some absolutely amazing things you'll see during paint and sculpt. And you see a lot of stuff like some tree sap and some leaves. There's this wall on the back here. So again, it's kind of unclear whether this is inside or outside or a little bit of both. But as you get towards the top of this, Thranduil I don't know how to pronounce his name. That's why I go by a simple moniker like Mr. X. But as you get to the top of those stairs here, Thranduil is sitting there. And if I'm mispronouncing his name, go cry to your mom. I'm sure she'll make you a sandwich and make you feel better. And not only is the throne built out of antlers, which is kind of weird, but it looks magnificent. It looks very royal, and it really commands your attention. And he is sitting there like a badass. I mean, this is how I sit on the turlet. But he looks like royalty. He looks like majestic. He looks like an asshole as well, too. I love what they did. It really shows the power. It shows what he thinks of himself. It shows an awesome scene from the movie. And I absolutely love this concept. Now, what's crazy to me is Weta decided to do this, and this is an expensive piece. We're going to talk about it, even though it's not an exact scene from the movie, even though I wouldn't even call him a secondary character, certainly not a popular character from the movie, but it's still unbelievable. So I give the concept a 5 out of 5 on the extreme scale. Really impressed with it. Design. Unfortunately, this was not without its issues. Now, it's important to remember, when you go all out and try and do an incredibly elaborate piece, which, let's face it, this is, you're going to run into issues. It happens every single time. So before we look at that, let's look at the very difficult unboxing and assembly. Probably two of the biggest boxes I've ever got. There's my son standing next to one. It almost looked like a coffin. Now, Weta usually does some fancy stuff with their boxes, makes it look really prestigious. Standard straps and tape. So the first box, the smaller box, had 2 layers. The first layer here had this gold cloth material on all the pieces. You can see them laid out here. Second layer was the giant base. You're going to see that in scale. Then there's the coffin box here. There it is open. They gave you gloves and a bunch of cool documentation about the statue itself. This only had 2 pieces in it. They were pieces of the tree and the antlers at the top. Now to assemble it, this is the bottom of the tree. I couldn't get this on video because we didn't do it on the table. This is the bottom of the base. And they actually gave you a tool with washers and nuts to screw it in. And then here is a reference. You can see the holes in the bottom of the base and how big the base is. Alright, so again, you need a minimum of 2, if not 3 people to actually assemble this. And Thranduil, he actually keys into like 3 different places, and so do the antlers around him. So while you couldn't really tell as I was putting him together, you kind of need 5 hands. And let's face it, if you had 5 hands, you would not be playing with this. You would have the ladies lining up. While this is heavy up here, I think they made it as light as possible. However, one issue I had, and it's pretty bad to be honest with you, and it could be because of where I live. Where I live, it's about 5 degrees outside right now. The size and shape of resin and polystone will fluctuate with temperatures. So the antlers specifically, where they key in, there is some pretty bad seam lines. You can see them right here. Now part of that I'm sure is due to the weather, so I'm sure it fits in a little bit more. And also, from the front view, if you're not displaying this in the middle of a room, you would never see that. So While it is pretty bad, I can get over it, but it's definitely something they should have done better. Now you have a few different display options too. They wanted to make it where the throne could be the center or actually the Elven King. So here it is with him sitting on the throne. Now this is optional. If you remove him, you actually switch out the antler on the left side because it removes one of the keyholes for him, and you can see the intricate part of the throne. And again, like I said, this guard up here, he is just sitting there. He has felt underneath him. He doesn't key in anywhere, but he still stands pretty steady, so you could move him around as well. Let's measure this because this is obviously a big question. The diameter of the base is probably about 29.5 inches or so. For exact dimensions, check out Spec Fiction's website. And the tallest part, yes, I'm wearing pants because I'm on my way into work, is over 41 inches. So that is incredibly big. So displayability is definitely an issue with this piece. You really have to have a good place to display it. Now, I'm semi-tempted to keep this. If I had one of their other pieces from this line, specifically this Treebeard version, I probably would keep it. I actually had this on PO when they first released it, didn't get it, and now it goes for astronomical prices. But that's what I love about Weta. While they do the main characters, they do all these secondary, beautiful Masterline museum pieces here, and they pull them off. So the design, if it wasn't so elaborate, it would probably be a 2 out of 5, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because this was very hard to do and they pulled off a lot of things that I don't think normal companies would be able to pull off, especially in a larger edition size, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Let's dive into the paint and sculpt of this piece, and guys, as a spoiler, it is a knockout of the park. Weta usually is on their bigger pieces like this, but check it out. Now, as we dive into this, keep in mind, the smaller the scale, the harder it is to get detail, but that didn't stop Weta. There's just so much going on here. So as we talked about, black museum style sub base here, which I like. This is part of that museum collection. And I think it really goes because this is just, it screams class, the figure does. So on the base here, kind of this templized throne. The leaves look unbelievable. They look like real leaves. There's no moistening or wet effect or anything on them, but they have done a fabulous job. I love these paving stones too. I think they have the right amount of texture. The different colorization in them is just really impressive. And then these stairs, obviously this feels like it was carved right out of the tree. So this almost looks like some wood flooring you might find in a kitchen. A little bit more rough to it, but then as you move up, you really get that grain pattern in that circular part of the tree. See the grains they have in there, and even the sap coming down the sides here. Now that does have a small moist effect, but these stairs are incredible. And I would also say around the outside of the tree looks great too. There is some green they added for the vegetation effect, and I think that gives the statue, it makes it pop a little bit more than it would. Also kind of a orangish red color. This is very difficult to move. And even on the back here, just more of the leaves on this, the ridge of the tree, or the wall back here, I should say, with some intricate designs. Really impressive. This thing is difficult to move and I don't want to break anything. I love the wear on this, you can really tell it comes from an outdoor environment. And right here, here's that front-on shot where I talked about the seams would essentially be hidden. But let's look at the characters and the antlers. So the guard right here, he looks nice. He does have more of a toyish effect than the main character. So I'm not a huge fan of this. I don't even know if I would want to display him. I think it helps fill in this empty void in the base. They did great with the colors, and keep in mind, he's fully sculpted though. Right here, that looks like fabric. I had to double check and feel it again. It looks like fabric, so anytime you can make fabric or a sculpt look like fabric, I think you have a huge win. I like the details on the shield here. Looks like it's made out of wood with some armor plating on it. A few different variations of gold. His spear looks nice. Hopefully I can focus on it here. A little bit difficult. Some good wear on that as well. Portrait, you really can't see too much of it because of the chainmail in front, but again, the chainmail is fully sculpted, doesn't look like it does. The plastic's really just parts of the armor, I think, and the helmet. I think that was a little bit of a miss on this guy. The antlers up here look fantastic. They look like a real taxidermied beast. I love the directionality of them. I love the coloring they used. Kind of this coarse wood effect really made them pop and come to life. And while you saw a picture of the throne, we're not going to remove him for this close-up, but take a look at that. Again, just like kind of weaving, almost like basket weaving reminds me of. They did a great job with that. And again, they pulled off making sculpt look like fabric with all these robe layers. It looks like it's truly draping down, you know, around the horns, around his hand. And I like these colors a lot. It's kind of this bronze orange that looks very royal, but not. And then the robe he has on right there, kind of underneath it. His staff looks fantastic. I really like the, try and focus here. The wood on the bottom of the staff here looks great. And I love how the horns have actually, like I talked about, you know, incorporated it into the throne. His clothing looks great. His boots, this is all fully sculpted again. Some nice creases and folds in his pants and boots to give that real life effect. His armor looks fantastic. Lots of detail on this, kind of a mix between some royal robes and chainmail. And you can see right there, kind of the emblem holding everything together. His portrait is spot on. I think they knocked it out of the park. I think the likeness is 100%. I really like how the crown complements it. I think they did a good job with the color choices. This is one of those few where it does look better in person than it does on camera. And if you move back, so right here I'm only about 12 inches back or so, you really get that feeling. I think the expression is perfect. You know, he always, you got the insinuation he was better than everyone else, so sitting in his throne, he really gives that. This piece really is breathtaking, and with 1/6, as I talked about, it's kind of harder to get that detail, so when you do step away, so I'm about 2 feet away from him right now, you really see, wow, that is absolutely amazing. Top notch on the paint and sculpt for this piece, though, by Weta. So paint. It's easily a 5 out of 5. It's fantastic what they did. I love every part of it. Very impressed. Sculpt, I think the only knock I'm going to give it is some of the things on the soldier up here. I don't dig that, but man, I have to give it a 5 out of 5 on the sculpt. I would probably even give it a higher score if it wasn't for that soldier. Now value. So we know the statue's amazing. Is it worth it? They made 450 of these, which is a large edition size for a piece that not a lot of collectors can display. However, like I said, this would look great with that tree beard. I think this would look great even with the Prime 1 Studio Balrog vs. Gandalf. That's why I'm kind of tempted to keep it. I do have a place I could display it, but I would have to shell out $2,800 plus shipping. And Weta is kind of a weird beast when we talk about value. Some of their pieces double in value. Like that Treebeard piece, I think it goes for 30 to 50% higher than the original retail, and that's secondhand. But that Golem I had, actually, I sold for half of retail, even though it was an excellent done piece. And like I said, this isn't a main character, despite how awesome this statue is. Now, I'm pretty sure they're sold out on their website, and like I said, you can actually get it from Spec Fiction. There's an affiliate link below, guys. If you click on that, it doesn't cost you extra, but I actually get money from that, so kind of a heads up if you want to do that. And that's not just for this piece, but for any piece on Spec Fiction's website. But man, if you have the space for this and you're a Lord of the Rings or Hobbit collector, this is a no-brainer in my opinion. This is definitely something to have. I know Spec Fiction also offers payment plans because that is a pretty hefty price tag, but the value for this, I think I got to give it a 3 out of 5 right now. I could see down the road this becoming like the Treebeard, because that wasn't a super popular scene either, and really didn't have the main characters, even though those hobbits are a little bit more main characters than this guy right here. Plus, I think the Lord of the Rings trilogy was a little bit more popular than the Hobbit trilogy, but I could definitely see the value in this going up. So the last category is, does this have the X factor? Is this a 5 out of 5 statue? So when you walk in a room, are you immediately drawn to this? Is it amazing? Duh. Of course it is. And, you know, like I said, size does matter, and it doesn't always make things better. However, it does draw your attention. And then when your attention is drawn into this and you see the beautiful detail and the elaborate design to this, it's pretty impressive. I think this is a 5 out of 5 statue overall. This is amazing. I so wanted to see this in person, and it did not disappoint, despite some of the issues. Mrs. X actually wanted to pack this back up, but thankfully I don't have any statues arriving for a while, so it's going to stay on this table for about a week so I can enjoy it before I send it back to the Toddfather. But really appreciate you guys watching. Let me know what you think of this, or just tell me your favorite Lord of the Rings or Hobbit movie. Throw that down in the comments below, and you can say Star Wars, it's okay. But because any comment will actually enter you into a contest to win a statue. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Again, thank you guys so much. Please check out Spec Fiction's website. A big thank you to the Toddfather for sending this to me. Also, if you could do me a favor, just hit that like button. It really helps the video. Check out some of these other videos. And in the meantime, take care. Talk to you soon.